My son said, "Dad, either you carry the bags for us or walk home." I put the bags down, turned around, and started walking. Not because I was tired of carrying their things, but because 36 hours earlier I'd heard something, through a hotel door, at 2 in the morning. Words I couldn't unhear. Words about borders. About old men who get confused. About what happens when they're left alone. So when he handed me those bags at the Italian border, I already knew. This wasn't a vacation. It was something far worse. Before I tell you what happened next, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Because what I'm about to share, it could happen to anyone anywhere. It began with a phone call that should have lifted me. My son wanted to take me to Italy. 2 weeks, the whole family together. I said yes. I shouldn't have. April in Seattle means rain. Not a downpour, but the kind that lingers slow, steady gray. I'd been alone in that Ballard house for 3 years. 3 years since Beatrice passed. 3 years of silence. The call came on a Tuesday. Seeing Shane's name on the screen felt like a mistake. We hardly spoke. A call on my birthday. A text on Christmas. That was all. Still I answered. "Dad." His tone was cheerful, almost exaggerated. "I've been meaning to call." I waited. There was always a reason. "Courtney and I were talking," he said. "You've never traveled. You worked your whole life and never left the country." Not true. Beatrice and I had once gone to Vancouver, but I didn't correct him. "We want to take you to Italy. 2 weeks in June. Milan, Venice, Florence. Owen's out of school. The 4 of us. A proper family trip." I sank into a chair. Rain smeared the view of Puget Sound. "That's kind of you," I said carefully. "You deserve it, Dad. We'd love to have you with us." That enthusiasm didn't sound like him. Shane was a man of brief words and long silences. This version of him felt borrowed. "But God," I wanted to believe it. "Let me think," I replied. After the call, I sat for a long while. The house creaked around me. Empty rooms. Empty chairs. I'd forgotten the feeling of being wanted. I thought of Beatrice, of what she would say. She once warned me after Shane's second wedding. We had paid for nearly all of it, $20,000 we didn't have. He thanked us, and within months, stopped calling. "Shane takes after you in the worst ways," Beatrice told me. "Your stubbornness, your pride, but not your heart. He didn't get your heart." I argued, defended him. He was our son, just busy, building a life. Now her words weighed heavier. Still, 3 years alone is a long stretch. Long enough to forget cautions, long enough to hope that maybe people change, that maybe your son missed you. That night I called him back. "I'm in," I said. Shane laughed. "That's wonderful, Dad. This is going to be amazing." I wanted to believe him. The next day I bought a suitcase. Not too large, I didn't want to be a burden. A few wrinkle-free shirts, comfortable shoes, a light jacket. The night before we left, I stood in the bedroom. Beatrice and I had shared for 47 years. Her side of the closet still full. I could never clear it. Sometimes I opened it just to breathe in her perfume, faint, now almost gone. I took down our wedding photo, 1975. We looked impossibly young. She in a simple white dress, me in a borrowed suit. We were happy. Truly. I slid it into my wallet behind a credit card, in case I needed a reminder of what real love looked like. The morning Shane picked me up, he didn't come to the door. He honked. I heard it from the kitchen, where I was double-checking my bag. Passport, wallet, medications. The honk came again, sharp, impatient. I looked out the window. Shane sat in the driver's seat, phone to his ear. Courtney was in the passenger seat, sunglasses on, despite the overcast sky. Owen slouched in back, earbuds in. No one looked toward the house. I grabbed my suitcase and locked the door behind me. By the time I reached the car, Shane had rolled down his window, but hadn't gotten out. "Morning, Dad. Pop the trunk, will you?" I lifted my bag into the back. It wasn't heavy, but my shoulder twinged. No one offered to help. The back seat smelled like fast food and teenage boy. Owen didn't look up. I buckled in behind Shane. "Ready?" Shane asked, already pulling away from the curb. "Ready," I said. No one answered. At SeaTac, the check-in line moved slowly. When we reached the counter, the agent smiled at our tickets. "Looks like 2 of you have checked bags included. The other 2 will be $150 total." Shane glanced at me. "Dad, you mind covering that? You've only got the 1 bag." I pulled out my credit card. "Sure." Courtney turned then, her first real acknowledgement of me all morning. "Oh, and Logan, you have your passport right. Keep it somewhere safe, not in your check bag." "I know," I said. "It's in my jacket." "Good. Just making sure." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Lots of people lose them in airports. I'd traveled before. Not often, not far, but enough to know how passports worked. Still, I nodded. The flight was long, 16 hours with a layover in Frankfurt. I sat in the last row of economy crammed against the window. Shane, Courtney, and Owen were 6 rows ahead. I watched them during boarding, Shane scrolling his phone, Courtney adjusting Owen's headrest, the 3 of them settling in like a self-contained unit. During the Frankfurt layover, they went to get food. I waited at the gate, assuming they'd bring something back. They didn't. When they returned 20 minutes later, Owen had a sandwich. Courtney carried a coffee. Shane had a pastry in hand. "You good, Dad?" Shane asked, sitting down beside me. "Fine," I said. My stomach growled quietly. He didn't seem to notice. Somewhere over the Alps, Shane leaned back and spoke without turning around. "Hey, Dad. Random question. Did you ever update your will after Mom passed?" I blinked. "Why do you ask?" "No reason. Just, making sure everything's in order. Estate planning stuff. Courtney's been reading about it." "It's handled," I said carefully. "Cool, just checking." He went back to his movie. I stared out the window at the dark clouds below and tried to ignore the knot forming in my chest. We landed in Milan at 10 p.m. local time. The city was warm, the air thick and unfamiliar. By the time we reached the hotel, I was exhausted, jet-lagged and disoriented. The room had 2 beds and a pull-out sofa. "You don't mind, do you, Dad?" Courtney said brightly. "Owen needs a real bed for his back." "Of course not," I said. The sofa smelled faintly of mildew and old fabric softener. The mattress sagged in the middle. I lay down fully clothed, too tired to care. Through the thin wall I heard water running, then voices low, urgent. Shane and Courtney in the bathroom. I couldn't make out full sentences, just fragments. "Burden, the house, 2 weeks." I pressed my ear closer, but the words dissolved into murmurs. Eventually the water stopped. The voices faded. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself I'd misheard. But something gnawed at me. Something I couldn't name yet. Not suspicion, not quite. Just unease. By Venice, I'd stopped trying to be in the photos. It happened gradually. In Milan, I'd offered to take a picture of them in front of the Duomo. When I suggested someone else take one so I could join, Courtney glanced at her watch. "Maybe later, Dad. We're on a schedule." Later never came. In Venice, we took a gondola through the canals. Owen sat up front. Shane and Courtney nestled in the middle. I sat in back watching the city drift by. When we stopped at a bridge for photos, I stayed in the boat. "You coming, Dad?" Shane called. "I'm good. You 3 go ahead." They did. That evening, Owen posted to Instagram. I saw it when I borrowed his charger. The 3 of them on the Rialto Bridge, arms around each other, smiling. The caption, "Italy with the fam. Gaccia Justus 3. Just us 3. I stared at those words, then handed back his charger. "Great picture," I said. He didn't look at me. "Thanks. You all look happy." "Yeah, we are." I wanted to ask if I made them unhappy, but I didn't. I smiled. "That's good. That's all that matters." The next day we walked. Miles of cobblestones and bridges. My knees ached, my feet blistered. Every time I slowed, the gap widened. Shane and Courtney ahead. Owen in the middle, me behind, carrying everyone's bags. 4 bags, 2 backpacks, a shopping tote. "Dad, you're not doing anything anyway," Courtney had said. "Might as well make yourself useful." I took the bags. By Florence, the pattern was clear. We stood on the Ponte Vecchio at sunset, the Arno golden below. Shane leaned against the railing, scrolling his phone. "Hey, Dad, your pension, it goes into Wells Fargo, right?" I blinked. "Why, just curious, thinking about switching banks." "They're fine." "Cool." He went back to his phone. That night, Courtney cornered me in the hallway. "Logan, you're still keeping your passport on you, right?" "Not in the hotel safe." "Yes, in my jacket." "Good. Just making sure. People lose track of documents while traveling." I wasn't a child, but I nodded. "I've got it." She smiled. "Perfect." I watched her walk away and felt something shift. Not anger, just clarity. They weren't treating me like family, not even like a guest. Like an obstacle, something in the way. Owen knew. I could see it in how he avoided my eyes. How he flinched when Shane snapped at me. How he turned up his music whenever Courtney made another comment. But he said nothing. On our last night in Florence, I lay in bed, another pull-out sofa, and stared at the ceiling. I thought about Beatrice, her warning. He didn't get your heart. She'd been right. The next morning, we loaded the car for Tuscany. Shane drove. Courtney navigated. Owen slept. I sat in back and watched the countryside hills covered in vineyards, cypress trees standing like sentries. the kind of beauty that should have made me grateful. But all I felt was dread, because I'd started noticing something else. The way Courtney looked at me when she thought I wasn't watching. Not with irritation, with calculation, like she was counting down. I woke at 2 in the morning to the sound of voices. Low, urgent, coming from the balcony next door. We'd arrived in Tuscany that afternoon. Vineyards, rolling hills, a restaurant with a view. Dinner had cost 287 euros. When the bill came, Shane slid it toward me. You said you'd treat us, Dad. Remember? I didn't remember, but I paid. Now I sat up in the dark, disoriented. Shane and Courtney's bed was empty. Light seeped under the bathroom door. Water running, then voices. Are you absolutely sure about this? Courtney's voice tense. Just leaving him there? I froze. Shane sighed. We've been over this 100 times. What choice do we have? I know, but you want to take care of him for the next 10-15 years? Pay for a nursing home that costs $8,000 a month. My chest tightened. Of course not. What if someone finds out? No one will. He's 72. Dementia runs in families. We'll say he wandered off, got confused. Happens all the time. I pressed my hand against my mouth. Owen's voice small. This feels really wrong, Dad. Owen, enough. You're 17. You don't get a vote. He's right, honey, Courtney said. This is grown-up stuff. But Grandpa trusts us. He paid for this whole trip. Exactly. Shane's voice sharpened. He paid. With money, that should be ours. That house alone is worth over $1 million. His pension, the savings, the bonds, all just sitting there. We're drowning, Owen, Courtney added. Your college fund is empty. We're 3 months behind on the mortgage. So day after tomorrow, Courtney continued. At the border near Como. You're sure it'll work? The Chiasso crossing is perfect. Crowded, chaotic. We tell him to wait with the bags while we go through customs. Then we just keep walking. Get in the car. Drive into Switzerland. And if he follows, he won't. He barely speaks Italian. His phone doesn't work here. I made sure of that. No international plan. By the time he figures anything out, we'll be in Zurich. Silence. Then Owen, barely a whisper. What if he dies out there? The silence stretched. Shane cold and flat. Then he dies. People his age. It happens. I stopped breathing. No one's saying we want that, Courtney said quickly. We're just giving him a chance to figure it out. Maybe he'll call the embassy. Maybe some local will help. We're not killing him, just letting nature take its course. Exactly, Shane said. Now go to bed. We have Como tomorrow, then the border the day after. The water shut off. Footsteps. The door opened. I lay back down, eyes wide, staring at nothing. My son, the boy I taught to ride a bike, sent to college, gave $50,000 for his house down payment. For money, for a house, for convenience. I thought of Beatrice, her warning. He didn't get your heart. She'd known. I lay there until the room grew quiet, until I was sure they were asleep. Then I sat up, checked my jacket, passport still there, wallet, credit cards, cash $400, 200 euros. Enough. Day after tomorrow, Chiasso border, tell him to wait with the bags. They'd planned every detail, but they'd made one mistake. They'd told me. I sat on the edge of that sofa and made a decision. If they wanted to leave me at the Chiasso border, I'd leave first. On my terms, not as their victim. As a man who chose his freedom. The next morning I smiled at breakfast. It wasn't hard. I'd spent 72 years being pleasant. One more performance wouldn't kill me. This cornetto is wonderful, I said, holding up the pastry. Best coffee I've had all trip. Shane looked up from his phone surprised. Courtney blinked. You seem good this morning, Dad. I said. Beautiful place. Beautiful weather. What's not to love? They exchanged a glance. Relief, maybe. Or suspicion. I couldn't tell. Didn't matter. Let them think I suspect nothing. Let them believe I'm the foolish old man they've already written off. After breakfast, I went back to the room. Checked my jacket for the 3rd time that morning. Passport inner pocket zipper closed. Wallet, Visa, MasterCard, both active internationally. Cash $400, 200 euros. Enough to survive, enough to disappear. I ran my thumb over Beatrice's photo tucked behind my credit card. Strength isn't loud, Logan, I heard her say. It's quiet. It's knowing when to walk away. I know, B, I whispered. I know. At 9, we loaded the car. Shane drove. Courtney navigated. Owen slept in the passenger seat, earbuds and face turned away. I sat in back and watched Italy roll past. Hills covered in vineyards, cypress trees standing like sentries, the kind of beauty that should have filled me with peace. Instead, I felt nothing but focus. 5 hours. Bologna, Milan, then north toward the lakes. Somewhere past Milan, Shane glanced at Courtney. She nodded slightly. "One more day," she murmured. I heard it, pretended I didn't. Owen shifted in his seat. His eyes met mine in the rearview mirror. He looked away quickly. He knew. He'd always known. But he'd said nothing. Done nothing. That's what hurt most. Not Shane's greed. Not Courtney's calculation. Owen's silence. We reached Como at 2 in the afternoon. The town sat at the base of the Alps, the lakes stretching blue and endless. Tourists crowded the waterfront, gelato shops, cafes, laughter, normal life while mine was ending. Or beginning, depending on how you looked at it. The hotel was small, 10 kilometers from the Chiasso border. Close enough. At check-in, the clerk asked for our passports. Shane handed his over. Courtney did the same. I kept mine in my hand. "Would you like us to store it in the safe, signora?" the clerk asked. "No," I said, firmly. "I'll keep it with me." Courtney turned. "Logan, it's safer in the—" "I like to keep it close," I said. Met her eyes. Didn't blink. She hesitated, then smiled. "Of course. Whatever makes you comfortable." But I saw the flicker, the question. "Does he know?" No, he couldn't. We were careful. I let her believe that. That evening we ate at a restaurant overlooking the lake. The sun set behind the mountains, turning the water gold. "Tomorrow," Shane said, cutting into his steak, "we cross into Switzerland. Lugano is supposed to be beautiful. I'm looking forward to it," I said. And I was, just not the way he thought. After dinner, I excused myself early. "I'm tired. Jet lag's still hitting me." "Get some rest, Dad," Shane said. Didn't look up from his wine. In my room, I sat on the edge of the bed. Didn't turn on the TV, didn't read, just sat. Tomorrow morning, they'd drive me to Chiasso. They'd tell me to wait with the bags. And then they'd walk away. But I wouldn't be there when they turned around, because I'd leave first. I lay down fully clothed, stared at the ceiling, thought about Shane as a boy, the way he used to hold my hand crossing streets, the way he'd run to me when he fell off his bike crying, needing me. When had that changed? When had I become disposable? Maybe it didn't matter. What mattered was tomorrow. I closed my eyes, didn't sleep, just waited. For morning, for Chiasso, for freedom. The next morning we pulled up to the border crossing. Shane parked near the Italian customs building, turned around in his seat. "Dad, can you grab all the bags? We'll go through customs first with the documents." I nodded, and I smiled. Because I knew. This was the last time I'd ever call him son. My son said, "Dad, you'll carry our bags or walk home." So I walked. The Chiasso border crossing sat between two worlds. Behind me, Italy. Ahead, Switzerland. Tourists crowded the checkpoint, pulling suitcases, waving passports. The morning sun was already hot. 28 degrees Celsius, 82 Fahrenheit. Shane parked near the Italian customs building, turned around in his seat. "Dad, grab all the bags. We'll go through customs first with the documents." Courtney added, "Yeah, you're not doing anything anyway." Owen said nothing, looked down. I nodded, got out of the car. Shane popped the trunk. 4 bags, heavy, full of things they couldn't be bothered to carry. I stood there for a moment, looked at the bags, looked at Shane walking toward customs, Courtney beside him, Owen trailing behind. Then I bent down, lifted the first bag, placed it carefully on the ground. Second bag, set it next to the first. Third bag, lined up neatly. Fourth bag, arranged beside the others. I straightened up, brushed off my hands, turned around, and walked the other way. Not quickly, not running, just walking. Steady, deliberate. Toward a sign I'd spotted earlier, blue and white, an arrow pointing right. Lugano 15 km. Below it a bus symbol. I walked toward Switzerland. Behind me I heard Shane's voice, distant, confused. "Where's Dad?" I kept walking. "Dad, Dad." 30 meters now. I didn't turn around. "Logan," Courtney's voice sharp and panicked. I reached the Swiss customs booth. The officer looked up. "Passport." I handed it over. My hand was steady. He flipped through it, stamped a page. "Welcome to Switzerland, signore." "Thank you." I walked through, crossed the invisible line. Behind me, Shane was running now. I heard his footsteps, his voice getting louder, more desperate. But I was already on the Swiss side, and he couldn't follow. Not without going through customs himself. Not without abandoning Courtney and Owen in the car and all 4 bags sitting alone on the Italian pavement. I kept walking. Saw the bus stop, a small shelter, a bench, a timetable posted on the wall. Bus 434, Lugano Carona. I sat down. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from relief, from the weight that had just fallen off my shoulders. I heard Courtney screaming my name, heard Shane shouting, Heard chaos behind me. But it was fading, growing distant, like a storm moving away. I looked at my hands. 72 years old. Liver spots, thin skin, but steady now. You wanted to leave me here to die, I thought. But I left first. As a man. On my terms. You don't get to write my ending. I do. The bus pulled up at 10:15. Blue and white. Dusty. The driver looked tired. Lugano, he asked. Corona, I said. Can this bus go there? Corona si, 30 minutes, €5. I pulled out my wallet. Handed him a €5 note. He gave me a ticket. I climbed aboard. The bus was nearly empty. An old woman with a shopping bag. A teenager with headphones. Me. I sat by the window. Watched the border crossing disappear behind us. Watched Italy fade into the distance. Watched Shane and Courtney become smaller and smaller until they were nothing. Just two figures standing beside 4 abandoned bags. Owen stood apart from them. Still. Not running after me. Not calling my name. Just standing there. Maybe he was relieved. Maybe he felt guilty. Maybe both. I'd never know. The bus climbed into the hills. Cypress trees. Stone walls. Villages with names I couldn't pronounce. I pressed my forehead against the window. Felt the vibration of the engine. The warmth of the sun. And for the first time since Beatrice died, maybe for the first time in years, I felt something I'd almost forgotten. Not happiness, not yet. But possibility. The possibility that I could choose. That I could walk away. That I didn't owe anyone my suffering. I'd carried their bags long enough. Now I was carrying only myself. And I was lighter than I'd been in years. The village was called Corona. I found it by accident. Or maybe by grace. The bus climbed into the hills above Lugano, winding through narrow roads lined with stone walls and cypress trees. When the driver called out, Corona, I was the only one who stood. The village was small, maybe 800 people, stone buildings with terracotta roofs, flowers spilling from window boxes, a church with a bell tower, a fountain in the center of a tiny piazza, and quiet, so quiet I could hear birds. I walked slowly looking for a place to stay. My legs ached, my back ached, but I kept moving. A sign caught my eye. Pensione Margot, Camere Libere, rooms available. I rang the bell. A woman answered, 60 maybe. Silver hair pulled back in a bun. Kind eyes that didn't ask questions. Buongiorno, parla inglese, I asked. A little, she said. You need room? Yes, just for a few days, maybe a week. She looked at me, saw something exhaustion maybe or relief, and nodded. Come. She didn't ask for my passport. Didn't ask why I was alone. Just led me upstairs to a small room with a window overlooking the lake. €50 per night, breakfast included. I pulled out cash, handed her 100. 2 nights, I said. Grazie, she smiled. You rest now, you look tired. I was. The room was simple. A single bed, white sheets, a wooden chair, a small desk with a kettle and cups. The window framed Lake Lugano, blue water, green hills, mountains beyond. I sat on the bed, took off my shoes for the first time in 12 hours, lay down, and fell asleep instantly. When I woke, the light had changed. Golden late afternoon. I checked my phone. 3 o'clock. 31 missed calls. 23 from Shane, 8 from Courtney. No voicemails, just calls, over and over. I deleted them all without listening. Then I made 3 calls of my own. The first was to James Morrison, my lawyer in Seattle. We'd worked together for 20 years. He'd handled Beatrice's estate. He knew me. It was 6:15 in the morning there. He answered on the 3rd ring. Morrison and Associates. James, it's Logan. Logan Mitchell. Mr. Mitchell, his voice sharpened. Is everything all right? I'm in Switzerland. My son just tried to abandon me at the Italian border. He planned to leave me there so he could inherit my house. I need to change my will. Immediately. Silence. Then I'm so sorry. Yes. We can do this over the phone with email confirmation. What changes? Remove Shane Mitchell entirely. All assets go to my 3 nieces, Sarah, Jennifer, and Michelle. Equal shares. Done. I'll draft it today. You'll need to sign and have it notarized in Switzerland. I'll find a notary. Thank you, James. The second call was to Wells Fargo. I removed Shane from joint access on my checking account. Changed the beneficiaries on my savings CDs and IRA. Effective immediately, I said. We'll need written confirmation, the representative said. You'll have it by tomorrow. The third call was to book a flight home. Zurich to Seattle. June 26th. 3 days away. Enough time to rest. To finalize paperwork. Seat 12A window, bulkhead, $1,847. I paid with my credit card. Confirmation email received. Then Shane called again, the 32nd time. I stared at his name on the screen, powered off the phone. I don't owe you anything, I said to the empty room. I sat by the window and watched the sun set over Lake Lugano. The water turned gold, then pink, then deep blue. Somewhere far below, a church bell rang, 6 times. I thought about Shane, about Courtney, about Owen standing still at the border not running after me. I felt nothing. Not anger, not grief, not even satisfaction. Just peace. The kind of peace that comes when you finally stop carrying weight that was never yours to bear. That night I slept better than I had in years. Not because the bed was comfortable, but because for the first time since Beatrice died, maybe for the first time in my entire life, I was free. Truly free? I didn't go straight home. The next 2 days in Corona passed quietly. I walked the village, drank coffee at a small cafe, found a notary, signed the will documents, mailed them to Seattle. Margot asked no questions, just brought breakfast each morning. You seem lighter, signore, she said on the second day. I said. On June 26th, I took a train to Zurich, then a flight home, 11 hours. I watched the Alps disappear below, then the Atlantic, then finally the Pacific coast. But when we landed in Seattle at 2 in the afternoon, I didn't take a taxi to Ballard. I went east instead, to Snoqualmie. The lodge sat above the falls, 268 feet of water, crashing down into mist and rainbows. I booked 2 nights. $340 per night? Worth it. I needed the sound, the white noise, the sense of something powerful and unstoppable that wasn't anger. On the second morning, I sat on the deck with coffee. A man about my age sat nearby, gray hair, reading the newspaper. Beautiful falls, he said. Yes. We sat in comfortable silence. Then he spoke again. You look like someone who just made a hard decision. I glanced at him. I did, and I'd make it again. He nodded. Good decisions feel that way. We talked. His name was Franklin Pierce, 68. Widower, his wife had died 5 years ago. Retired architect from Boise, Idaho. I come here once a month, he said. Something about the water. Washes things clean. Before he left, he handed me a business card. If you ever want to talk, or just sit in silence, I'm a good listener. I took the card, tucked it in my wallet next to Beatrice's photo. On June 28th, I went home. The house in Ballard looked the same, but I wasn't. The realtor had an offer. $1,150,000, all cash, close in 2 weeks. I accepted immediately. Started packing. Photos of Beatrice, her jewelry box, a few clothes, a few books. Everything else, furniture, dishes. Shane's old things I'd donate or leave behind. On June 29th at 4 in the afternoon, someone knocked on the door. I looked through the window. Shane. He looked terrible. Unshaven, eyes red, clothes wrinkled. Dad, he called through the door. Please, I'm so sorry. Please, we need to talk, Dad. I stood 5 feet away, watching. He sat down on the porch steps, put his head in his hands. I didn't mean it, he said to the door. I was scared. We were desperate. Please, you're my father, please. I watched him cry. Watched him sit there for 2 hours. At 6 o'clock he stood, looked at the door one last time. I'm sorry, he whispered. Then he left. I turned away from the window, went back to packing. The next day I boxed up his old things, high school yearbook, baby photos, trophies, shipped them to his address. No note. On July 1st I made a decision. I wasn't staying in Seattle. Too many memories, too close to Shane. I called Franklin. You mentioned Boise, I said. Any good neighborhoods? He sounded surprised. Pleased. North End, quiet, trees, near the foothills. I can help you look. I'd appreciate that. The house closed on July 12th. The moving truck came that morning. I loaded only what mattered. Before I left, I wrote a note for the realtor. If my son asks, tell him I'm gone. Don't tell him where. I taped it to the kitchen counter, locked the door behind me, got in the truck, and drove away from Seattle, away from the house Beatrice and I had shared, away from the life I'd built, away from the son who'd tried to erase me. I didn't look back. Not once. Boise, Idaho. 8 hours from Seattle. Far enough. It's October now, 4 months since I left. 4 months since I drove away from that house, from that city, from the son who'd planned my death. My apartment is small, 3rd floor, North End neighborhood. The window faces the Boise foothills, brown hills, dotted with sagebrush, hiking trails winding up like threads. I walk every morning, Camel's Back Park, up the ridge, then back down. My knees still ache, but less now. Movement helps. Coffee at a place called Java on 13th Street. The barista knows my order. Black, no sugar. Twice a week I volunteer at the library. help seniors with computers, show them how to email grandchildren who actually want to hear from them. Franklin visits every Tuesday. We have dinner. Sometimes we talk. Sometimes we sit in silence, reading comfortable. Last month we drove to craters of the moon, black lava fields, endless sky. He told me about his wife. I told him about Beatrice. You seem settled, he said on the drive back. I am, I said. I finally stopped waiting for someone else's permission to live. He nodded. Understood. 3 letters came from Shane, forwarded from the Ballard house before I told the post office to stop. I returned all 3 unopened. Wrote on each envelope, "Return to sender." No forwarding address. The 4th letter never came. He'd stopped trying. I feel no guilt about that. One morning this week I sat by the window with my coffee. 7 a.m. The sun rising over the foothills, turning them gold. I thought about Beatrice, saw her in my mind smiling. "You were right, Bai," I whispered. "I'm stronger than I thought. Strong enough to walk away, strong enough to not look back. Strong enough to know that forgiveness isn't owed. Not when someone planned your death for money. They say blood is thicker than water. But the full quote is, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. Meaning the bonds you choose are stronger than the bonds you're born into. My son chose greed. I chose freedom. And I don't regret it. I don't hate Shane. I don't think about him much anymore. When I do, it's like remembering a stranger, someone I used to know, someone who became someone else. That's the real freedom, not the absence of anger, the absence of caring. I'm 72 years old. I have maybe 10, 15 good years left. Maybe more, maybe less. I won't spend them carrying bags for people who see me as an obstacle. I won't spend them waiting for apologies that will never feel like enough. I'll spend them here, in this small apartment, with this view, with Franklin's quiet company on Tuesday nights, with my morning walks and my library shifts, and my coffee that tastes better because I chose it. Beatrice would approve. If this story reached you, maybe you needed to hear it. Maybe you're carrying bags that aren't yours. Maybe someone's counting down the days until you're gone. You're allowed to walk away. You're allowed to choose yourself. Some betrayals don't deserve forgiveness, and that's okay. Looking back on everything, I realize God gives us signs. He sent me Beatrice's warning years ago. He gave me the strength to walk away when I needed it most. And he led me to Corona when I had nowhere else to go. These betrayal stories teach us something crucial. Not all wounds are meant to be forgiven. When my son planned to abandon me at that border, he chose money over his father. That's a line you don't uncross. I've heard many grandpa stories over the years, men who sacrificed everything for ungrateful children. I used to think that's just what fathers do. But God didn't put us on this earth to be doormats. He gave us dignity. He gave us the wisdom to know when enough is enough. My betrayal story isn't unique. Somewhere right now, another grandfather's carrying bags for people who see him as a burden. Another father is funding a life for children who are counting down his days. If that's you, hear this: God sees you. He knows your worth, even when your family doesn't. Grandpa stories like mine don't always end with reconciliation. Sometimes they end with freedom, with peace, with a small apartment in Boise and coffee at sunrise. The betrayal stories that matter most aren't about revenge. They're about survival, about choosing yourself when everyone else has already chosen against you. God bless me with 72 years. I won't waste what's left carrying bags for people who wanted me gone, and neither should you. If this story touched you, leave a comment below. Share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to this channel for more stories about finding strength when family fails you. Because sometimes walking away is the most faithful thing you can do.